Good morning, everyone. Today, I stand before you to talk about something we all experience but seldom admit: the fear of the unknown. It's that quiet, persistent anxiety that creeps in when we face uncertainty, change, or anything unfamiliar. Whether it's the fear of a new job, a move to a new city, starting a new chapter, or simply stepping outside our comfort zones, the unknown often paralyzes us with doubt and hesitation. The fear of the unknown is a fundamental part of the human experience, a feeling that transcends cultures, backgrounds, and individual differences. From the earliest stages of civilization, human beings have instinctively feared what they did not understand. Ancient societies explained natural phenomena like thunder, eclipses, or disease through myths and gods, simply because the reality was beyond their comprehension. This illustrates that fear of the unknown isn't a modern phenomenon. It has existed for as long as we have. It arises not because people are weak or irrational, but because uncertainty challenges our survival instincts. When we don't know what lies ahead, our brain interprets it as a possible threat, triggering a biological fear response. This explains why even the most rational or courageous individuals may hesitate when faced with unfamiliar circumstances. On a psychological level, the unknown triggers the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for processing fear. This happens even if the threat is only perceived or imagined. Our brains are wired to prioritize safety and predictability. We create routines, establish patterns, and build mental models to navigate our environments with confidence. But when something falls outside those patterns, whether it's a change in job, a new environment, or an unexpected life event, our mental alarm systems go off. Even if the change is potentially positive, like moving to a better place or starting a dream career, the uncertainty embedded within it can still cause stress. This fear, though irrational in many cases, is powerful enough to influence our decisions, our emotions, and even our sense of identity. Culturally and socially, this fear of the unknown is reinforced from a young age. Children are often warned against strangers, dark places, or risky behavior, which, while well-intentioned, can seed the idea that the unknown is inherently dangerous. Over time, this message gets reinforced by societal expectations that promote stability, certainty, and risk aversion. People are taught to plan, to prepare, and to pursue the safest route, and anything deviating from that plan is often viewed as irresponsible or reckless. As a result, individuals may find themselves avoiding potentially life-changing opportunities simply because they fall outside their known experiences. This cultural conditioning deepens the fear, making it harder for people to recognize that sometimes the unfamiliar is not a threat, but a gateway to growth. Moreover, modern society, despite all its progress, continues to struggle with uncertainty in many forms. Technological advancements have made life more efficient, but they have also introduced new layers of complexity and ambiguity. From global pandemics to economic instability, the unknown looms larger than ever. People fear not just personal change, but global unpredictability. The more information we have, paradoxically, the more aware we become of what we don't know. And that realization fuels deeper anxiety. This shows that the fear of the unknown isn't just a personal or psychological issue, but a collective societal challenge that affects how we live, work, and relate to the world around us. The fear of the unknown finds its roots in our intrinsic need for control over our surroundings. Human beings are wired to seek stability, to make sense of the environment, and to anticipate what will come next. This desire for control is not merely a preference. It is deeply connected to our sense of survival. When we feel in control, we feel safe. When we can predict outcomes, we feel confident in our ability to handle what lies ahead. However, the unknown shatters this illusion of control. It introduces a space where outcomes cannot be guaranteed and where expectations no longer serve as reliable guides. In such moments, even the most composed individuals may feel disoriented, unsure of how to act. Safety is another powerful psychological need that directly influences our fear of the unknown. We construct routines, form habits, and create systems that help us feel protected from harm, whether physical, emotional, or social. These structures form a psychological safe zone that we often hesitate to leave. Anything unfamiliar represents a possible danger, even if logically we know it may not be harmful. This is why many people resist change, not because the change itself is bad, but because it removes them from the protective shell they've built around their lives. It's also why people might stay in unhappy relationships, unrewarding jobs, or toxic environments. The predictability, however unsatisfying, feels safer than the uncertainty of something new. Predictability provides a framework in which our minds can function with ease. It reduces the cognitive load of constantly assessing risks, making decisions, or adapting to new conditions. When we know what to expect, we can conserve mental energy and focus on thriving rather than surviving. The unknown, on the other hand, demands heightened awareness, quick decision-making, and emotional resilience, all of which can be mentally exhausting. Our fear, therefore, is not just about what might happen, but also about how we will cope with it. This is particularly relevant in a world that moves faster than ever, where change is constant and the demand for adaptability can leave us feeling mentally and emotionally drained. Moreover, our societal systems often reward control and punish uncertainty. Success is frequently associated with meticulous planning, long-term strategy, and the ability to forecast outcomes. Schools, workplaces, and institutions all value predictability, order, and reliability. From a young age, we are taught to plan ahead, avoid risks, and follow structured paths. As a result, stepping into the unknown can feel like breaking an unspoken rule, an act of rebellion against the order we've been taught to value. This societal conditioning intensifies our internal discomfort, making the fear of the unknown not only a personal struggle, but also a social one, reinforced by the systems we live within. Uncertainty has a powerful effect on the human mind, often leading to an overactive imagination that fixates on worst-case scenarios. When faced with the unknown, the brain instinctively begins to fill in the blanks, and more often than not, it does so with fear rather than hope. This tendency to anticipate negative outcomes stems from an evolutionary mechanism designed to keep us alert and prepared for danger. In ancient times, assuming the worst in an uncertain situation could mean the difference between life and death. If one heard a rustling in the bushes, it was safer to assume it was a predator than to ignore it. While our environments have evolved, our brains still carry this survival programming. As a result, even in situations that don't pose actual danger, our minds still leap to anxious prediction. The unknown activates the brain's threat detection system, primarily through the amygdala, which is responsible for processing emotions like fear. In uncertain moments, the amygdala sends signals that heighten our alertness and initiate the body's stress response. Heart rate increases, muscles tense, and the mind starts racing. These physiological changes prepare us for fight or flight. but they also create a mental environment where anxiety can flourish. Instead of calmly evaluating possible outcomes, we become consumed by the fear of what might go wrong. We begin to ruminate, replaying scenarios in our heads that may never happen. This rumination feeds into a loop of anxiety where fear fuels imagination and imagination deepens fear. Anxiety is not just a reaction to a specific threat, but often a response to the unknown variables surrounding that threat. These thoughts don't stem from evidence, but from the discomfort of not knowing. The unknown acts like a blank canvas on which the anxious mind paints its darkest images. And the more detailed these imagined outcomes become, the more real they begin to feel, even if they have no basis in reality. This tendency to imagine negative outcomes not only increases stress but also limits action. People become hesitant, avoidant, and overly cautious. They may delay decisions, miss opportunities, or retreat into familiar habits simply because they cannot tolerate the anxiety that comes with uncertainty. In some cases, this can escalate into chronic anxiety or phobias, especially when individuals continuously anticipate danger in uncertain situations. Over time, this pattern becomes deeply ingrained, making it even more difficult to break free from the cycle of fear. What begins as a simple lack of information evolves into a mental barrier that prevents personal growth and emotional well-being. True growth and meaningful transformation rarely occur within the confines of familiarity. When individuals remain inside their comfort zones, they may feel safe, but they are also limiting their potential. Comfort zones provide psychological security, but they often come at the expense of progress. The routines and environments we grow used to are convenient, but they can become cages that restrict learning and evolution. Every new skill learned, every confidence built, and every major breakthrough in life begins with an act of courage that requires stepping into discomfort. The unknown, though intimidating, is the territory where change happens. It presents challenges that force us to adapt, rethink, and expand our capabilities. Personal development thrives on uncertainty because it demands problem solving, resilience, and emotional growth. When people place themselves in new situations, they are compelled to confront their limitations and challenge the assumptions they've always held. This confrontation, while difficult, is necessary for inner growth. A person may never realize their strength until they are tested. Someone may never discover a hidden talent until they attempt something they've never done before. By taking risks and pushing past self-imposed boundaries, individuals uncover parts of themselves they never knew existed. This journey into the unfamiliar is what molds character, sharpens wisdom, and instills self-belief. Transformation is also tied to the capacity to endure discomfort without retreat. Change is rarely easy. It disrupts our equilibrium and demands flexibility. When we avoid change because it feels uncertain, we unknowingly stall our own evolution. Think of a seed transforming into a tree. The process is gradual, unpredictable, and invisible at first, but it cannot happen unless the seed breaks through the soil. Similarly, human growth often feels slow and confusing in the moment, yet it is essential. Discomfort, uncertainty, and struggle are the signs that transformation is occurring. Rather than resisting these feelings, one must learn to sit with them, recognizing that they are temporary but necessary companions on the path to progress. In professional and creative realms, stepping outside the comfort zone is often the precursor to innovation and success. Entrepreneurs, artists, leaders, and visionaries are rarely those who follow safe and predictable paths. Instead, they are individuals who dare to explore what has never been done before. They embrace uncertainty as part of the journey, knowing that without risk there is no reward. Innovation comes from taking bold steps into uncharted territory.
Stop sama laba-laba.
Mentally, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. Courage is often misunderstood as the absence of fear. But in truth, it is the decision to move forward in spite of fear. Everyone experiences fear when faced with the unknown. What separates the courageous from the fearful is not a lack of emotion, but a conscious choice to act regardless. However, courage is entirely voluntary. It is a conscious effort to stand firm, to choose the difficult path, and to step into uncertainty even when every instinct urges retreat. This redefinition of courage makes it more accessible to everyone because it acknowledges that fear is not a weakness, but part of the human experience. When people believe that courage means being fearless, they often disqualify themselves from believing they are brave. They may think, I'm scared, so I must not be courageous. But the reality is that the presence of fear makes the courageous act even more powerful. It takes greater strength to act while afraid than it does to act without fear at all. A student giving a speech despite shaking hands, an individual leaving a toxic relationship, or someone speaking up against injustice. These acts are not born out of fearlessness, but of conviction and willpower. Recognizing this helps individuals become more forgiving of their own fears and more empowered to face them. Instead of waiting to feel brave, they can begin to act bravely in the face of discomfort. This mindset shift also promotes emotional resilience. Understanding that fear is not the enemy but a signpost allows people to manage their emotions more effectively. Rather than allowing fear to paralyze them, they can learn to coexist with it, to observe it, and to keep moving forward. Courage becomes a practice rather than a personality trait, something that is cultivated over time through repeated exposure to the uncomfortable. Each small act of bravery builds emotional strength and confidence. The first step might feel impossible, but the second becomes slightly easier. And over time, the individual learns that fear, while loud and persuasive, doesn't have to dictate their choices. Moreover, courage is contagious. When one person chooses to act despite fear, can inspire others to do the same. In communities, organizations, and families, acts of courage ripple outward, encouraging collective strength. A leader admitting uncertainty, a teacher encouraging a new method, or a parent allowing their child to explore independently. All of these choices require courage in the face of the unknown. They model a mindset that embraces vulnerability as a necessary element of growth. As more people begin to understand and embody this deeper, more authentic definition of courage, a powerful cultural shift can occur, one that values bravery not as fearlessness, but as persistence in the presence of fear. Many people fall into the trap of waiting for the so-called right moment, that elusive point in time when everything will supposedly align perfectly, when fear will vanish, and when conditions will be ideal for taking action. However, such moments are often illusions created by our fear of failure or discomfort. We convince ourselves that we are being rational or prudent, when in reality we are stalling. The truth is that life is inherently unpredictable, and waiting for perfection often becomes a convenient excuse to avoid the unknown. In doing so, individuals risk watching valuable opportunities pass them by, while they wait for a certainty that may never come. Opportunities are rarely dressed in perfect conditions. They often arrive disguised as challenges, inconveniences, or moments of uncertainty. Many successful people have taken risks not because they were completely ready, but because they knew that waiting might cost them more than trying and failing. By taking a leap despite not having all the answers, they allowed themselves the chance to grow through experience. Every step taken, even if uncertain, teaches something. And more often than not, those who act in the face of doubt end up discovering new strengths and gaining insights they would never have accessed from the sidelines. Waiting, on the other hand, deprives us of this invaluable life lesson. The idea of a right time is also tightly bound to the fear of making mistakes. We imagine that if we wait long enough, we will be wiser, more skilled, or more confident. But what we often forget is that those qualities don't simply appear with time, they are built through action. Confidence grows from doing, wisdom grows from experience, and skills are sharpened through practice. If we keep waiting for confidence before we act, we may never act at all. The ironic is that the very things we wait for are often the results of the journey we are too afraid to begin. Delaying action then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that limits our progress and narrows our potential. Furthermore, time itself is a resource we cannot control. Life can shift in ways we do not anticipate, and waiting for the right moment assumes that we'll always have the luxury of time. Circumstances change, windows close, and opportunities fade, sometimes without warning. What feels scary today may feel even scarier tomorrow if left unchallenged. Taking action in the face of uncertainty, even if imperfect, is far more powerful than years of waiting in hesitation. Life favors the bold, not because they are fearless, but because they act when others hesitate. Recognizing this can liberate us from the illusion of the perfect moment and encourage us to embrace the opportunities that are already within reach. While the unknown is often feared for its uncertainty, it also holds the power to transform lives in unimaginable ways. It is easy to focus solely on what might go wrong when stepping into unfamiliar territory, but rarely do people consider what might go right. The unknown is a space of pure possibility, a blank page that has not yet been written. Within it lies the potential for discovery, reinvention, and breakthroughs that cannot be found within the confines of the known. Just as a traveler must leave familiar paths to discover new lands, Individuals must step into the unknown to uncover parts of life and themselves that would otherwise remain hidden. The unknown is where innovation is born. Every invention, artistic creation, scientific discovery, or personal reinvention has its roots in someone daring to explore something unfamiliar. Had humanity always feared what it didn't understand, progress would have stalled centuries ago. The very nature of growth requires stepping beyond what is comfortable and what is certain. The unknown is not simply a void of answers. It is a wellspring of opportunity for those who are willing to look beyond fear. In fact, many of the greatest achievements in history were born not out of certainty, but out of bold curiosity and a willingness to face the unfamiliar with hope rather than dread. On a more personal level, embracing the unknown can lead to powerful moments of clarity, connection, and fulfillment. Taking a new path can introduce someone to new relationships, new perspectives, and even new versions of themselves. While staying in the known may offer temporary peace, it often comes at the cost of deeper meaning and adventure. The unknown invites us to grow into who we are meant to become, not who we have always been. It presents us with moments that stretch our emotional, mental, and spiritual boundaries, pushing us to evolve in ways that static living simply cannot provide. Moreover, the unknown has a strange way of revealing what truly matters. When certainty is stripped away, we begin to realize what is essential: our values, our passions, our resilience. We may learn that we are far stronger, more adaptable, and more capable than we believed. The discomfort of uncertainty often serves as a catalyst that sharpens our focus and helps us align with what really drives us. It forces us to let go of superficial comforts and invites us into a deeper journey of self-serviceness. And spaces where life's brave enough to enter. In the end, the fear of the unknown is not something to be eradicated, but something to be understood, respected, and moved through. It is a natural part of every new beginning and every major decision we face. But if we allow that fear to dictate our lives, we confine ourselves to a narrow, limited version of what is possible. The unknown may be uncertain, but it is also the birthplace of growth, discovery, and transformation. By choosing to confront it with courage rather than avoidance, we open ourselves up to a life rich with meaning, purpose, and endless possibilities. The journey begins, not when fear disappears, but when we decide to move forward despite it.